Good afternoon, students. Today we'll see the object-oriented concepts. In last lecture, we have seen short what is object-oriented and all. Okay. So what is the object? Object are the physical and conceptual things we find the universe around us. Hardware, software, document, human being, and even concepts are the all examples for the objects. For example, here script writer, finance, actor, actress, sport boy, a software engineer would consider the stack, queue, windows, and checkboxes are the objects. They are called the as runtime entity in object-oriented system. They are also called as the class type for entity, and they are even called as the instance of class. They are used to the access member of the classes. Then what is meant by class? A class is the user defined data type that we can use in our program, and it works as an object constructor or a blueprint for creating a object. So to create a class, how to create a class? To create a class, use the class keyword. So see here, for example, class, my class, this is the class name. Then public, public means this is the access specifier. Then integer my num, this is the one attribute and its data type is what? Integer. Then string, my string. My string is the variable and its data type is what? String. Semicolon, sorry, curly bracket complete and semicolon. This is the declaration of class. Then how to create an object. So how to create an object? In C++, an object is created from a class. We have already created the class name, my class. So now we can use the create objects. To create an object of my class, specify the class name followed by the object name. To access the class attributes my num and my string, use the dot syntax and object on an object. For example, create an object called my object and access the attributes. Class, my class, this is the class name. Then public, integer my num, then string my string, then integer is the main function, int main in curly bracket my class, then object name my object. This is the creating an object of my class. Then access attributes and set values. My object dot my num equal to 50. My object dot my string equal to some text. Then print attribute values. Then see out my object dot my num slash n see out my object dot my string return 0. So our output is what? P and some text. Then how to create a multiple objects. You can create a multiple objects of an class. For example, create a car class with the some attributes, that is car, class car in curly bracket, public, string, brand, string model, integer year. curly bracket complete, semicolon. Then in main function, curly bracket open, create an object for a car. So car object one. Then car object one dot brand. It's brand, model, and year. This is the object name. So BMW is the brand, X5 is the model, and 1999 is the year. Then create another object for car. Then car object 2. Then car object 2 dot brand equal to Ford. Car object 2 dot model is equal to Mustang, and dot year is equals to 1969. So print attribute values. Then C out is the car object 1 dot brand, car object 1 dot model, and car object 1 dot year. So first is what? BMW X5 and 1999 is the output, and second C out is the Ford Mustang and 1969. Then class method. What is the class method? Methods are the function that belongs to the class. There are two ways to define functions that belongs to a class inside class definition. Then outside class definition. In the following example, we define a function inside the class and we name it what? My method. So note that you access method just like you access the attributes, and by creating an object of the class and by using the dot syntax. Then inside the example class, class is the my class is the class name. Then publicly means it is the access specifier, and void my method, uh, bracket close and open, opening and closing, then curly bracket open. Then this is the method or function defined inside the class. Then C out equals to hello world. Then curly bracket complete, semicolon. Then integer main, my class dot my object. This is the creating the object of my class. Then my object dot my method. My method is for see out hello world. Then output is hello world. Then parameters. How we can add the parameters. Then hash include string.h using namespace standard. Class car, public, int speed, integer max speed, integer car, scope resolution operator, speed, integer max speed, curly bracket open, integer return max speed, semicolon, curly bracket complete. Then my function int main function, there is car my object, semicolon. This is the creating the object car. Then see out object speed is the 200. Then call the method with an argument, then return 0, output is 200. असू दे. Then constructor and destructor we have seen last lecture. Okay. So what is meant by constructor? Constructor is the C++ is a special method that is automatically called when an object of a class is created. To create a constructor, use the same name as the class followed by the parenthesis. Then this is the example of constructor. Then what is meant by inheritance? Inheritance, it is the derived class and base class. So what is meant by inheritance? In C++, it is possible to inherit attributes and methods from one class to another. We group the inheritance concept into two categories. First is the derived class, that is child class, and second is the base class, that is parent class. The derived class means what? The class that inherits from the another class, and base class means the class being inherited from this particular class. To inherit from the class, we can use the symbol in the example below, that is car class. Child inherits the attributes and methods from the vehicle class, that is parent class. So why and when we use the inheritance? Note it down. It is useful to code reusability, but the reuse attributes and methods of an existing class when you create a new class. So see the example here, base class, class vehicle, curly bracket open, public string board, brand, that is Ford. Then void home, cout to 2 slash n, then class complete. Then derived class is class car, public vehicle, then public string model equal to Mustang. Then close the derived class. Then integer main car, my car dot home, cout my car dot brand plus double quote complete plus my car model, return 0. The output is what? 2 and Ford Mustang. Then multiple inheritance. Multiple inheritance means what? A class can also be derived from the one class which is already derived from the another class. In the following example, my grandchild is derived from class my child, which is derived from my class. Then example, base class, that is parent class. that is my class. Then public void function, see out some content in parent class, then curly bracket complete, semicolon, then derived class child, class my child, colon, public my class, semicolon, derived class grandchild, class my grandchild, colon, public my child, semicolon complete. Then integer mean my grandchild, my object dot my function. म्हणजे पहिल्यांदा काय करतो तो ऑब्जेक्ट कॉल करतो आणि त्याच्यानंतर तो काय करतोय त्या ऑब्जेक्टचं फंक्शन कॉल करतो. ठीक आहे. सो आवर आउटपुट इज व्हॉट some content in parent class. Then polymorphism. What is meant by polymorphism? Polymorphism means many forms, and it occurs when we have many classes that are related to each other by inheritance, like we specified in the previous chapter, that is inheritance. Let us inherit attributes and methods from the another class. Polymorphism uses those methods to perform different tasks. This allows us to perform a single action in different ways. For example, think of a base class called the animal that has a method called animal sum. Derived class of animals could be a pigs, cats, dogs, birds, and they also have their own implementation of an animal sum. Then the pig oinks and the cat meows. This is also seen in last lecture, I think. What is meant by destructor and constructor? Tell me. Yes. Anyone tell me. What is meant by constructor and destructor? Yes. Yes. No one? Abhilasha? Okay. The constructor means a constructor is an operations that has the ability to change the state of an object. The initialization of object takes place the state of an object. The initialization of object takes the place. Using special function called constructor, it is called the when you initial instantiate an object. The constructor is a function whose name is the same as the class when with the no return type, not even or void. Then constructor. Constructor are methods that are used to initialize an object at then constructor have the same name of the class. Okay. As other methods, they can take the arguments, so they can be overloaded. Constructors are implemented or implicitly called the when we define the objects of their classes. There are two types of constructor. First is the default and second one is the parameterized constructor. What is meant by default and parameterized constructor? Default constructor are constructors. If you do not define the any constructor in your class, then system provides it is has the nobody but you can define as well. It is also known as no argument constructor. Then syntax. Syntax is what? Class name, function, then in curly bracket, there is body of default constructor. Then parameterized constructor. It is the type of constructor. Then this type of constructor can take arguments to it is called as an parameterized constructor. So syntax is class name in bracket there is parameterized list or list of parameters. Then body of parameterized constructor. Then close the body. This is the types of constructor. Then overloading constructor means what? Like any other functions, a constructor can be overloaded with several functions that have the same name but different type or number or parameters. Remember that the compiler will execute the one that matches at the moment at which a function with that the name is called. In the class where we declare the class and we do then the default constructor and copy constructor are also type of the constructor. An empty constructor is the parameter is empty. Destructor. Destructor means what? It is the member of function that is the invoke automatically when the object goes the out of scope or is explicitly destroyed by a call. To delete, a destructor has the same name as the class preceded by a tilde sign. For example, the destructor or class string is declared that is the tilde string. If you do not define a destructor, the compiler will provide a default one for the many classes. This is sufficient. You only need to define a custom destructor when the class you only need to define a custom destructor when the class stores handle to the system resources that lead to the release, or pointers that own the memory, they point to the consider the following declaration. And this is the destructors program. Then declaring constructors. How to declare in the constructor? Here we see the files. The F-stream library allows us to the work with files. Then to use the F-stream library include both the standard IO streams and the F-stream. This is the header file. Then there are the three classes included in the F-stream. First is the off-stream, if-stream, and F-stream. Off-stream means creates the rights to file. Then if-stream is what reads from files. Then F-stream, a combination of off-stream and if-stream, creates the reads and writes to the file. Then create and write to a file. To create a file, use either the off-stream and F-stream class and specify the name of the file. To write the file, use the insertion operation. So, integer main, create and open a text file, that is off-stream my file in bracket, in double quote there is file name dot text. Then write to the file. File can be tricky, but it is fun enough. Then close the file, my file, close function. Then read file is the operation for the file. Then exception. Exception is the try catch block. Its syntax is what? Try, in curly bracket there is block of code to the trying and throw the exception. Throw an exception when a problem arises. Then after that is the catch block. And in catch block there is block of code and handle the errors. This is the example. Okay. So finish the C++ portion for BCA. If any doubts, ask me. I will tell you. Okay. Do study well and all the